We're live. It's happening. We're not actually live. I'm recording this, but welcome to A Nutter Perspective. I am your host, Christen Nutter, hence the name. And this is podcast numero uno. You are now considered OGs if you are listening to this. And gotta say, what a long time coming. 40 years to be exact. That's how old I am. So I just can only assume that we're going to push all the things that I've learned in my life out through this medium. It's going to be really fun. You may be wondering, why should I listen to this? Why am I here? Great question. Great question. I spend a lot of time thinking. I love to think. I think to the exclusion of other things. Like music. People find this so weird. I don't really listen to music. I like music, but I don't listen to music. And reason being, I really love my thoughts. I love to just immerse myself in whatever's happening in my brain. And it's not even a conversation. I know some people think in conversations, it's just this like swirl of ideas. And sometimes it's even hard to translate them into English. So, not that I'm like in my mind in a different language or anything. It's just, sometimes it's hard to take these big ideas and turn them into words, but we're going to do that together. And I think it's important for us to go on this journey of understanding truth and reality together in some kind of a community. Because how are ideas tested and shaped, but in community with other people who can push back on them or ask follow-up questions or give their perspective in a way that shapes my own. And I love becoming right. I love it. Keyword becoming. I don't really care that much about being right or the state or feeling of being right, because that's like a protected state, Like if I just need to be right, then I'm gonna put boundaries around that and keep people from trying to prove me wrong. But becoming right, that process, that journey of becoming right, it opens you up to just so much freedom because you're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to be wrong. You almost welcome it. And that's the kind of person I want to be, is someone who feels almost good, like takes pleasure when someone proves me wrong. I love it when I can meet that person who's smarter than me, or talk to that person who has figured something out about this world that I hadn't. Like I want to hang on that word and just incorporate it into my worldview. I don't know about you, but if that is you, then join me, because that is the practice that we will participate in on this podcast. This episode is just me, and there may be others that are just me. And I'm also going to invite people on. One of the main reasons I even wanted to do this podcast is because I just know so many great people, and I am 1000% bragging. I think that I am rich with amazing friends. And I know not everyone can say that, so I just want you to borrow my friends. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in conversations with friends and people that I know, and I wish that I could just press record on the whole thing and share it for the world to see and hear, because it's really in the context of dialogue and healthy conversation that we take these ideas and we play around with them, and we, try different things on for size. One fun fact about me is I started a comedy troupe 3 years ago called Salad Comedy, shout out, which is Dallas backwards. So it's salad with 2 L's. Yes, very clever. I did not come up with it. And the study of improv has been such a beautiful study, because you do get to practice the art of world building and trying on different perspectives. One of my favorite professors, Jerry Root, who I hope to have on one day. We were in his office one day and just having a conversation, and we were talking about what the highest virtue is, or highest moral good. And he would say, and I think I agree, empathy. Because if you have empathy, you're less likely to commit atrocities against other human beings. So if you can empathize with what someone might feel if you stole from them, or, took their spouse or something like that, then you're less likely to do that. But Jerry Root, again, fave prof, he said, "Do you know one of the best ways to cultivate empathy?" And I was like, "What, Jerry?" And he said, "Read books, read literature, because it trains your mind to practice the art of taking on different perspectives." Um, Ironically, I'm not much of a reader. This is ironic for a million different reasons, but I do love taking on different perspectives, and improv teaches you to do that. And you get to pretend to be someone else, and you get to pretend to take on the emotions of a character. And that's true for acting and other fields like that. And it's such a good practice that we all need to participate in. And so I want us together to hear from and take on different perspectives and imagine, what things might be like through the lens of someone else. And that word lens is really important for our conversations because, you know, my cover image mimics one of the eye doctor charts. And when I think about how we engage with reality, we have to first admit that we're all wearing lenses. We all have a different lens for how we interpret the world, how we think about reality and see it. And I'm reminded of whenever I go to the eye doctor, which I've had LASIK, so it isn't much. And if you've had 20/20 vision, you also don't know what I'm talking about. But anyone who's had any eye issues will know exactly what I'm talking about. They sit you in a chair, stand you behind a line, and you have to read this eye chart. And all of us, almost all of us, unless you're one of those blind as a bat people, can see the E, massive E at the very top. We're all in agreement that that's an E. And then each of us is going to progressively be able to read or not read the different smaller and smaller and smaller lines of text. And so they have you read that until you can't anymore and you're just guessing at this point what the different smudges and blurs are. Then they sit you in the chair and they put a little machine in front of your face where they will try different lenses in front of your eyes. And usually it starts out super blurry and you're like, how could anyone live like this? And then they get a little bit clearer, but then it's like warped. Like I can see, but do I really want to see this way? And then finally they triangulate your vision with these lenses until you can see perfectly. And I like to think of that being the journey that we're on, which is each one of us has a current lens. Some of our lenses are more distorted than others, and even in different areas. I might have a clearer vision of, this theory or idea over here, and you have a clearer vision over here, and we need each other. That's why we need each other's expertise, perspectives, experience, research, stories, testimonies, case studies, etc. We need all of that to grow in our understanding of the world and to sharpen or put in focus our understanding of reality. And then we also have lenses called a worldview, which is how I just generally understand the world around me. And usually that takes the form of some kind of a religion or philosophy. And I think it's important for us to try on different lenses or perspectives or sub lenses to understand where people who are different than us are coming from and empathize with them. And also, uh, we all should be on this journey of looking for the lens that gives us the best read on reality. And reality, by definition, is that which is. That which is whether I know it or not, that which is whether I like it or not, that which is whether I agree or not, that which is whether it makes me uncomfortable or not. And so we all should be on this journey, despite how we feel about it, of getting closer and closer to the most accurate understanding of reality. And so I want us to have conversations together. And really what we're doing is we're trying to get closer and closer to what's true, what's real, and not do what is the opposite of that, which is live in delusion, because delusion is is believing that what is not real is real. And I want to make the case that what we believe, whether true or untrue, is the most important thing about me. It's the most important thing about you. And the reason is what you believe determines how you live. It becomes the rudder pointing you in a direction. And I use that word delusion and delusional intentionally. And usually we think of like deluded people or delusional people as crazy. But if we're honest with ourselves, if we're really honest, every single one of us lives in some degree of delusion, even in microscopic ways. Like if I think that my favorite detergent is sold by this grocery store and it's not, and I put that grocery store in my GPS, I'm basing that decision of where to drive my car on a delusion. Not a big deal. That kind of stuff happens all the time. We can't know everything perfectly, right? So it's not necessarily bad to be deluded about things. And maybe that's a strong word, but just for the sake of clarity, like we're not always right about stuff. And we believe false things about each other all the time. We assume intent, we assume motives about the people around us, and that leads us to draw conclusions and judgments about them, and then leads us to treat them a certain way. So anyway, these are just examples, but it starts with the humility to admit I do have things in my life that I don't understand perfectly, or that I have planted my flag in different areas, big ways and small ways, on things that don't hold up, and that affects how I behave and how I show up in the world and how I treat people. And so that's why when we talk about growing in our proximity to the truth and like getting closer and closer to truth and what is real, what really is, the reason we do that is so that we can be better people, so that we can live in alignment with reality and allow that alignment to impact how we see things. And very, very like extreme philosophical examples would be like uh nihilism, for example, which is a fancy way of saying to believe not only is there no God, but there's like no meaning to life, no purpose, and there's no moral compass. There's nothing, which is certainly a harsh way to see the world. And if that's true, if that is actually true, and nihilism is correct, then that means that I can't get mad, or I could, but it would just be, synapses firing chemically in my brain if you punch me in the face. Like I might feel pain, but I wouldn't have a moral leg to stand on to object to that, besides like survival of the fittest. And maybe that wasn't the smartest thing for you to do, but morally, I couldn't object to it if nihilism is true. And so you see, there's just like a working out in our day-to-day life of the beliefs that we hold. And I want the beliefs that you hold, and I want the beliefs that I hold to be anchored to something really solid. And where there's like a looseness or an ungroundedness to our foundation, will be really easy to topple over when the going gets tough. Just push on it and you'll fall. And I don't want that for you. I want you to feel grounded, and I want us to increase in our grounding together. Anyway, y'all are great. This is going to be super fun, and stay tuned for conversations coming up, or frankly, I may have a thought and record it and post it from the car. You just never know. So it's going to be a good time, and let's go on this journey together of looking reality in the face.